Hello everybody, this is the Cheesy Zealot here, and I've got another cheese game of PvP for you. And to introduce the players, I have Crook over in the top right side as the red Protoss, and down in the bottom left I have myself as El Bandito, the blue Protoss as well. And as my usual introduction, I'm going to go ahead and warn my opponent here, Crook, that I am indeed cheesing and that I rarely do anything besides it. Fortunately for me, Crook is not one to hold a grudge, and he agrees that cheesing is part of the game. As per my usual counter cheese or my usual beginning opening, not as much a counter cheese, I toss my first probe out quite early and go ahead and throw him all the way over here to start up what I hope is going to be an effective cheese on my part. So what I like to do here is sometimes to just toss a pylon down and then to put another building along here so that I can put a cannon back here, generally another building, I mean a forge, so that I can put a cannon back here and just defend that area with no real threat, because not enough probes can really surround that cannon to do much damage. And at this point, because I've already said I'm going to cheese, he's scouting down the base, trying to figure out what's up, hoping that not too much crazy is going to go on. At this point, I'm not entirely sure why he doesn't go for that probe. I think he just doesn't realize it was there. He missed it slightly, and that ends up, I think, being not the best thing for him. Even though my probe kind of pops out into his vision, he doesn't notice it until I think a little bit later. And at this point, I'm feeling pretty happy because I've already managed to put down a forge, even though I don't put it in the normal spot because I think, you know what, maybe I do actually want to put a cannon here and then a gateway here and a pylon to defend that cannon a little bit more. So I'm doing pretty well. He hasn't quite noticed me until he does as soon as that forge completes. So he had some ideas of his own. I put down 2 cannons because, you know, I'm like, oh, Rutro, I'm a little worried that he's going to try and cannon me as well. So I also put that gateway down to protect the angles on my photon cannons, and use these 2 probes to kind of distract the rest of them from harassing me anymore. As my cannons are building, I go ahead and toss one more down and try and get my probes away. They manage to survive, but barely get away with a few shields and only 5 health on my other probe. The one more hit could end up taking out either of those probes, and they do run away so that those probes are engaged in other matters. My 2 cannons are not focus firing nearly as well as they should be, and unfortunately that ends up being their downfall. Fortunately for me, I do have another photon cannon in the back, and this one does manage to start taking that other cannon apart even while this one builds. So while my cannon gets a little bit constructed here, I manage to snipe a few more probes and start my way on the photon cannon that's already finished construction. He realizes he's going to need those probes if he's going to finish off this cannon, so he sends it back in, and I decide, yum, I am happy to eat probes for a living. And then I take out another few, and he realizes he only has 9 probes left on his mineral line. At this point, you know, I say, why not go ahead and start pushing out a zealot? I might be able to take one of these cannons out, and the gateway's there already, so go for it. And I barely get out the zealot before that gateway is underpowered, and try going in with both my probe and my zealot, but they do not manage to finish that cannon off. So here, right now, I need to start building pylons at my home base. I built 1 pylon. I think I'm going to build another pylon. I go ahead and start it constructing. And over at my home base, my buildings are getting taken out. I can no longer build a cyber core just to get that technology up. So, you know, I say screw it. I'm just going to go ahead and pop out a Nexus and hope that it works okay. I do start my gateway again because I have to go ahead and start that gateway, or else I'm not going to get my tech out. And he continues to start putting some cannons up. As soon as a second earlier, as I noticed when my probe walks up into his area here, I see that he's building two or three more cannons to kind of defend himself, and I think, you know what, this means that I am pretty safe with this expansion. And I saw that slightly earlier when they were constructing, which is why I do feel confident in that earlier stage to go ahead and throw down a Nexus, because I know that there's not going to be as much coming for me as could potentially be coming for me. And despite him having double simulator, he just now starts his cyber core. which isn't bad for me because my gateway's just finishing, and I know, you know what, I kind of need that edge, and I'm glad that he's not going to get his Starkers out too much in advance of me. Fortunately for me, I do have that second Nexus coming up, which gives me quite an advantage as well. And now I throw down my Cyber Core with that second Nexus to go ahead and power units off of it. I feel pretty confident that I'm going to be able to face at least a little bit of Crook's army in battle. I also do throw one pylon down at his home base just to try and distract him more than anything. I'm not too confident that I'm really going to be able to do much. And as you can see, he's throwing down 2 cannons to defend his base, which probably in retrospect for him is not the best idea, given that I just have a pylon there, and even 1 cannon could take care of that whole attack. He does snipe my probe and then continues going with that pylon. At this point, I think it would make the most sense for him to cancel that photon cannon and just continue his mining as normal, but he's a little concerned for my earlier attack and continues to let that one finish up. While his home base is a little bit of a fortress right now because of all these cannons around, he does mean that he's spent an extra 300, 600 minerals on those cannons, whereas I have gone ahead and invested that in a second Nexus and some extra probes. And not to mention the 2 gateways and the Cyber Core that I have researching Warp Gate. I do decide, you know what, I'm going to try and rush to a little Robotech and get some good old Immortals out so that I can deal with any Stalkers that he ends up having my way. And he decides, you know what, I really want the ground armor, so he starts researching that ground armor, which is something I didn't realize during the game. He also starts cranking out a Sentry at some point, it looks like, which an interesting choice, I guess. And he's also quite a bit supply blocked, which is gonna be difficult for him. So let's go ahead and open up the units lost tab. So you can see that I have lost, actually, surprisingly, quite a bit more resources than him. I've lost 13 units, it looks like, as well as 1350 resources. But because of my investment in this Nexus during that time, I actually, if we go ahead and look at the spending, I think, as it happens, I have quite a bit more army spending, technology spending, and economy spending as well. So I have lots more spending to go around there while he's kind of struggling to reinvigorate his economy with all those probes that I killed off. So while I have 17 probes on one base and 16 probes on the other, he only has one saturated base of 20, well, super saturated now, of 24 probes working on these mineral patches that are awkwardly situated so that take him a little bit longer to mine adequately. And I'm like, why not build a mothership core and go scout that out? I can see if he's building another base. If he's building another base, then I might need to go ahead and do an early attack and run off with him, but he's not building a second base, so it's going to be a little bit difficult for him to power his robotics and single gateway army off of that one base of resources that he's mining. So I'm feeling pretty confident because I have an entire second Nexus producing units. I've got an Immortal out already. I've got 4, soon to be 5 Warp Gates about to start cranking out units with my double base mining as I continue to produce some workers at both of them. And I'm feeling pretty good, even though he does have these Immortals coming. I mean, I don't know that, so I'm feeling pretty good. Especially because at this point he may have been trying to construct a second Nexus, but I didn't let it happen. That mothership core hung out there, and honestly, because he only has one Zealot or one Stalker, there's not too much he can do about it. He's just now getting a second and soon to be third Warp Gate up and running, which means that his unit production is going to be substantially smaller than mine, as I have 5 already constructed, as well as a robotics facility that's already been chronoing out 2 Immortals, and my 2 Nexi that already have one fully saturated and one partially saturated at the home base of workers. And so since the kind of standard unit I'd say for Protoss as far as general armies go to get is going to be a Stalker. I decide it's going to be a good choice to just go ahead and start with those Immortals. They're going to be some pretty beefy and strong units to fight in this upcoming battle. I do throw 1 cannon down just because I'm worried that if he does somehow go all the way to Dark Templar tech, that I'm going to have to worry about that detection. And even though I think I do at some point have this observer right here, I know that if there's an observer somewhere in here, I believe there it is. If I do have to move out and the Dark Templars get past, that could be one thing that ends up ensuring my destruction a little bit. Despite his substantial army, I'm still, I think, in a slight lead because of the fact that let's go actually and check that out and look at units. I'm still in a slight army lead, I think, with my 11 stalkers compared to his 5, and we're matching immortals toe to toe as well as observers. He also has a sentry out, but I have more than him, so we're going toe to toe at the moment. And as he sends his observer out to try and scout me out, I think it's an unfortunate moment for him about to come up, and he realizes that that's my army, so he decides to follow it around. And this observer, I don't know if it quite sees the other observer yet. Nope, it's just barely out of vision. Still barely out of vision. I don't think I noticed it at the time either, that little glimmer that's over here. So he sees my army and he sees it incoming and realizes, ruh-roh, it's time for me to get out a little bit of a defensive force. He cancels his other nexus and says, you know what, it's time to deal with the invaders here. As soon as I see that his stalkers go this direction, I realize, you know what, I've caught those stalkers out. They do not have a nice other buddy army to back them up with, and I can go ahead and push in. Even if he tries to sandwich me, I actually have a better position because I can force field some of those units away and continue to focus down stalkers and then move on to attacking the immortals with my entire army. So, as I have extra immortals and quite a few more stalkers, this battle ends up being a little bit one-sided, and with that economic advantage, I do push forward to victory. So if you guys are interested in seeing additional cheese from additional races as well, even though I do play Protoss almost all the time, I'm happy to give Zerg and Terran another shot and try and do something new. So hit me up and feel free to email me replays that you guys have played as well with some awesome cheese at cheesyzealot@gmail.com. Thanks, and I look forward to cheesing with you guys again soon.